I joined the energy sector back in the 80s actually. And I think it's fair to say that the utility companies generally have been early adopters of technology, but the technology they adopted back in the 1950s and 60s in terms of their billing systems was a bit different from what we see today. We started out by wanting to use technology in the broadest sense in the energy space, because we saw all these big energy companies and their really slow rate of adoption of modern technology, and we recognized that this was a commercial opportunity. With modern technology you could suddenly take a billing system that used to be housed in a massive building all of its own and put it on something you'd have on your desktop. And that was one of the key kind of initial ideas. It was just to massively change the cost to serve. But then when you start looking into it, obviously you can see all of the other opportunities that technology can bring. Well, I think that was one of the things that we highlighted on very early on at Utilita, was the ability to use smart meter technology to completely transform the experience for prepaid customers. I mean, that was the thing that really struck us back in 2005 when we installed our first smart meter. And before that, and it's amazing how little prepaid technology had changed in the previous kind of 30, 40 years. Some people were still using coin-operated prepaid meters back then. With smart technology, you suddenly had the ability to really bring the customer into the 21st century and really then start to exploit all of the other opportunities, because essentially with a smart meter you're basically just bringing a customer an electricity supply into the Internet of Things, and at that point you can then start to really exploit and to really add more value and just deliver a much better product to customers. We do generate an awful lot of data on a per customer basis. The smart meters themselves will record data on a half-hourly basis. So literally every customer, both gas and electricity, we've got half-hourly meter data. But obviously we can match that against their vending patterns, the times that they top up. We can match that against weather patterns. But even more detailed than that, we actually get a 10-second pulse data from our meters. And that's where it gets really exciting in terms of literally being able to identify different appliances being switched on in the home, switched off in the home. And that might sound a bit creepy, a bit sort of Big Brother, but actually it has a genuine, there is genuine value to be had from that, especially in the area of, customers that need some form of assisted living. And given the sort of aging demographic of our population, that we think is actually potentially an incredibly valuable thing to be able to, without any additional expense, gather that very detailed data on what's happening in a home. Technology has been absolutely vital in helping us to scale, because we simply couldn't have carried on with that rate of growth, the headcount that you would have in the business without applying a huge amount of technology would just be astronomical. Having the technology allows you to grow fast. If you didn't have the technology, you simply wouldn't have been able to grow fast. So frankly, technology is just critical, absolutely vital part of that growth story. Wouldn't have happened without it. When you look at the future opportunities, they're both in terms of what you can sell to customers, but also what you do internally in the way that you run the business. Some of the things that we've already got in play at Utilita would be robotics, voice analytics, various other forms of AI generally, that are already making a huge difference to the level of service that we can give to our customers. Energy companies tend to be looked at in a slightly different space to other tech companies, but I think in general, I think Britain has a great record in applying tech and developing tech. We really do, second to none in the world, really. When you look at the scale of Utilita now, we're doing something like 29 transactions per second of people actually topping up their meters, actually keeping warm, actually keeping their lights on. I think if you compare that to, I don't know, other tech companies that you might have heard of, I guess Uber would be one. I very much doubt that they're doing 29 transactions per second. They're certainly doing a lot. There's huge scale in tech businesses. I mean, I guess at the top end, you've got companies like Amazon that would be absolutely smashing those kind of numbers. But we're definitely in that range.